Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. Woohoo! We are live after technical difficulties. We are here. We can hear each other, and we are ready to take any and all of your questions. First, welcome to another Joyfully Ever After conversation with yours truly, Heidi Esther. I'm an author, speaker, and the joyful purpose mentor you have been waiting for. I'm here to share my wacky stories, my encouraging messages, empowering conversations with this awesome lady right here, some playful printables, and some powerful courses to let you know that you are worthy of finding your joyful purpose. No more people pleasing, no more guilt, no more regrets, no more carrying around all that weight and being too busy for you. So, there is a way to liberate your heart and soul and step towards your joyful purpose. Yes, even while you accidentally step in your dog poops while watering the plants in the morning. So now you know how my morning went. Just a little bit of it, very stinky. A little bit. It's okay. That's what hoses are made for. So I am so grateful to be sharing space today and introduce you to another soul who is on this journey to joy with me, with us. I'm here with Vicki Dobbs in hopes that we're going to share. She's going to share a little bit of her journey and her wisdom from her upcoming book. Yay! Welcome, Vicki.
Thank you so very much.
Yay! So, if you are watching this live, or if you are catching the replay, please follow along, write in your questions, and please share the answers to any of the questions that we share. I ask some basic questions to all my guests, and so that you can kind of follow along and feel the love. So, all that being said, I think that we need to first get to know a little bit about Vicki, and then we'll dive into some fun questions. All right. So Vicki, and honestly, I've read like half your book, and I'm so fascinated and curious, and I have like a million questions, but we have limited time.
Thank
so
you.
I'm just so excited to be here. So you call yourself a spiritual entrepreneur, which I love, and head cheerleader, which I used to actually be one. I don't know if you were ever an actual pom-pom band. See, you're cool kids. Yeah, it's just, I was just trying to be out there and cheer on my brothers who were on the football team. All right. So anyway, so she is the head cheerleader of the You First Revolution, and she helps people navigate their lives and businesses in a way that just allows them to give the world their shiniest and their best and their God-given gifts and graces and all that good stuff. What she really specializes in, like crafting virtual and in-person, like super juicy, tactile, like lovely experiences that usually I kind of cut it from like there's some kind of sacred creativity or art that like anchors in this experience, but then you leave with something more in your spirit, in your heart and soul. And she has a masterclass coming up in July, and so we're going to talk about that today too. So she has a longer bio, but I kind of wrote one also that I wanted to share. So I'm just gonna say mine, and if you're watching the replay, just read all the juiciness of Vicki and take it in. Vicki is like a wise woman, storyteller, and best-selling author. And from what I know of her, she's gone on this journey of self-discovery, and she's lived like through this deep love, this deep loss, this deep wonder, and she's moved into this deep joy. And somewhere in that big divine process, she developed this like intuition, this divine intuition, this kinship and openness with all that is sacred and all that we don't see, but what we feel and then we know internally. And she's she's got this openness to the sacred, I would say the sacred rhythm and the sacred beats of nature. And she shares her light with this world. There's like through these practices of like physical grounding, this sacred creativity, listening, connecting, healing, and joy bringing in our world with books, classes, and amazing experiences.
Wow. Thank you, Heidi. I'm taking that all in. It's one of my lessons is learning to receive, and thank you for that.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I'm so excited to have you here. So, I know everything in your book is just completely fascinating. But we're gonna just start. We're gonna start with the basics. And if you're listening or watching the replay, please feel free to answer this question. How are you, Vicki? And how are you taking care of yourself today?
I'm doing great once beyond the stresses of technology and the learning curve that goes with it. And I sort of set up myself to take care of me today by getting all of this squared away yesterday, I thought, so that I didn't have to worry my way to sleep or be anxious when I woke up. So I had a very nice lounging, easy rising morning, as opposed to the alarm surprising wake up that we get when we are. That's my gift to me, when I can wake up ahead of the alarm and just stay in bed.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
then you get that space, right? That
Yeah.
ease
Hmm.
to move into to flutter the eyelids open versus splashing the cold water on the face kind of morning.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it's an
Oh,
easy rise instead of a surprise.
right. I love that. Easy rise instead of a surprise. So I love that. As a word person, I always love a good
Yes.
rhyme. For
Yeah.
sure, for sure. So you already know a little bit about my morning, but I'm taking care of my. I took care of my shoes earlier. I'm taking care of myself today. A lot of times when I connect with people, I use a lot of energy because I just love connecting, but it takes a lot of energy out of me. So I had a big breakfast. I normally have a pretty small breakfast, but I had like a bagel. One side was like peanut butter, the other side was like egg and cream cheese and chives and avocado. So just like
Yummy.
I did a big breakfast and so and I'm here with my lavender. I got some lavender tea, some local lavender, and I made it into my tea in my joy mug. So that's how I'm taking care of myself today. All right. Cool beans. I am not in yeah, I am not in the right place for there we are. All right. So um Vicky, is there anything I know that I introduced you a little bit, but is there anything else that you would like to add kind of about your start? And maybe you can share a little bit like what is your soul silently screaming to say out loud to the world? You're a boisterous soul, but a gentle spirit. So I didn't know. Maybe your soul was silently whispering to say out loud.
Well, when I read that question from you, Heidi, I wrote down an answer because I wanted to be able to say it the way I heard it to me. So, what is silently yearning to scream out loud? And that's the stories. The stories we hold untold. Well, they'll anchor us, they'll hold us back. So, if I were to tell you something, it would be tell your stories, let them fly. Now, maybe that's to someone waiting to hear them, or you just need to let them fly away from you. They need to be set free. Tell your stories.
Oh, I love that. And there's so much about storytelling, right? There's the connecting with others who need to hear, but there's also something sacred in in the telling of them, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
giving the voice to what was silent before. So, when did you start telling your story? When did you start hearing that message?
Oh, I think the gift for me was when a friend gave me an old, tattered, beat up paperback version of Lynn Andrews' book, Medicine Woman. And I read it as the good story that it was. I loved reading historical stuff, and I was very drawn to Native American type stories. And so it fit right in with my, beside the table at night reading. And then I went in search of all the rest of them. And it would be a couple of years before I realized they were teaching stories, not just stories.
Oh, okay. So they had morals in them and
Well,
inspiration.
they had lessons. It was, and I try to write from that experience, in that a story well written will lead you through an experience, not tell it to you. And so if my stories can gift you that experience, then you'll either go, aha, or been there, done that, or wow, I could.
So it'll open that door. I talk a lot about finding those people, finding the teachers who can open that door to what could be for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You first have to give yourself permission to be first, to put you first, to choose you first, so that when you come upon those opportunities, you already have permission to step into them because you matter.
I love that because okay, so this is so true. Growing up, I would have learned to revere teachers and parents and authority figures from a different mindset, right? From a closed mindset, saying this is what I have to learn. But I didn't have permission, right? We didn't have permission at that time. We just were there to like get the knowledge, and everyone else knew more than we did.
Yeah, and you had a box to learn in. And what I want people to realize is, yes, there are boundaries in our lives, but instead of thinking them as boxes or shelves that you're on or in, think of it as an amoeba-like structure. It has these bendable, flowing, moving parts that you want to stretch this boundary, go for it. You want to stretch that those boundaries are like, is it legal? You might want to not step outside that boundary.
Yeah, there's some moral boundaries that you will know what those are for sure in your heart.
Yeah, it won't be a wall you can push very easily, but if you let your life be fluid, then when you come into that curiosity, when you feel like you need more and you can push against that boundary, when it's right, it just moves with you, and it allows for there to be more space around you to inhale the goodness of whatever's waiting.
I love that. I love that. It's like, allow yourself to have an assertive boundary around, like, that will move with you, that will stand firm with you, but is not rigid.
Right.
And we're all brought up in the rigid, boxy, non-amoeba-like structure. But once we realize that we have the amoeba structure,
yeah,
we can do anything. We can move walls.
You can move mountains.
Oh, I love that. So speaking of this journey, and I love the permission. So your journey, I don't want to give a lot of the book away, but so your journey is kind of, you start out as a girl, like, kind of riding horses and having to wear skirts to school in that kind of mold, and then you move in adulthood into real estate. So obviously we are not here to talk about horses, dress codes, or house sellings.
Right.
So in the book you talk a lot about like all of these rich, connective, sacred art practices, and I'm just really curious. Can you share a little bit about this journey? It's a long journey, so you can feel free to pick apart on how you were able to move into a space. You referenced something called the mystery school, which really sparks my curiosity. How you're able to move into that mystery school. Was it Lynn Andrews' book, or was that
Yeah.
like the start of everything, or what was a little bit of the journey to be able to be open to these sacred practices and art in your life?
Well, I think we all come into this world connected. And it's through our growing up years that we start getting labeled and disconnected. And for me, I had this concept of what being a woman, wife, mother, daughter was all about. And it didn't fit in my heart. So there was a constant stress in my life that I had no clue was there, because I was doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing, but I wasn't very happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how did that feel? So you felt constantly stressed.
Absolutely. There was a need to please, and there was a deep desire or need to make everybody else's life good. So whether that was parents or spouse or children, as the years went through, everybody came first ahead of me. So I once had a therapist, when I finally sat out on the floor and said, I can't do this anymore, and got help, ask me who I was. And I proceeded to give her my resume. And she looked at me and she said, that's all fine and good, but who are you? That's what you do. I couldn't answer it. I didn't have a clue there was a difference. So that's probably where my big eye opener came from. And then finding Lynn's books, finding her school, which gave me permission to do things outside the box I'd been raised in, reinforced the spiritual journey that I've always had in my heart. I could go to the mountains, and as soon as the scent of pine and manzanita at the age of 9 wafted through those drafty bus windows on the way to Y Camp, it was like there was a shift, but I didn't understand it. I got off a plane in Hawaii and broke out in tears. I had no clue what that meant. It was that part of my heart that was being touched by things that were important to me. I just didn't know it at the time.
Oh, wow. So the world was yearning and yearning and kind of screaming at you in its own beautiful way.
Yeah. There was no silence in my life. I didn't learn how to listen. So for me, I think between first and second year of Lynn's school, I went to a tax seminar in Sedona to learn about real estate taxation. And, you can write the weekend off if you have a class on Friday and then you go to the real estate office on Monday. The whole weekend is a write-off.
Ah, okay.
There has to be a good excuse why we do things. That was mine. I was, so I took myself to Sedona by myself and got a room by myself with a hot tub and a fireplace, and didn't turn the TV on. Went hiking the next morning, and I could do that one. And I went to the old Indian ruins before the pink Jeeps arrived. So I actually got to talk to the people there and be in that space without the noise that accompanied it the rest of the day. I hiked Boynton Canyon, and then I went to Devil's Bridge, and I kind of made a day of spending myself with me and really reconnected with, one, the fear of doing things by myself and moving through it. And second, finding the wonder that is in nature, and in that silence, how much you can hear.
So what did you hear that day?
I think it was the next morning when I really got it. And I called a place that had, people who would take you somewhere. This young man from Peru who was there working, we drove up the old Flagstaff Road, which is closed, and drove as far as we could, walked the rest of the way to an overlook of the town of Sedona. And there's all these massive, of course, red cliffs around, and this was a place called Eagle Point because out of the side of the mountain came the head of an eagle that overlooked the valley. And he just stepped back and let me walk out to the edge and sit on the rocks. And as I sat there, I heard the drums and realized that what I was hearing was the ancient drums that lived in that valley, the sound and soul of that place, because I had found a place in silence where I could hear.
Wow. That is beautiful. Yeah. It seems so, I've had so many moments of busyness in my life when I was first on my journey. A lot of times I would wake up in the morning, like a start, like wake up and like sit up right away because something was yelling at me that couldn't get through any other time of the day. And we don't have rocks here in the Midwest like that. But I'm sure that, I mean, there sure is a lot of quiet in the cornfields.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, that is so beautiful. And so that was kind of this, that was like the start of your journey with the rhythm and the drums, and then finding more of that, or how to manifest it like in your everyday life, because we all sometimes have, well, I have easier time carving a bunch of time versus like a little time each day, right? It's always
Right.
easier to just say, all right, I'm taking the weekend and I'm doing this. So how, now that you have all these practices, how do they manifest? What do they look like for you on a daily basis?
Well, I'll be the first to admit that on a daily basis, they're not always there. I think they're always around me because I'm a collector of rocks and sticks and crystals and stones and books and more books and ink pens and socks. And so the sacred surrounds me in a way that, just like the stress of getting this started and it didn't work, you just in that moment take a breath, and I look across the room and there's a crystal, and I can just take, okay, I'm all good now. And sometimes this morning when I brushed my hair, I gave it a shot of sage spray over the old head and get on with the day. I've had my quiet time. I'm ready to go. So I think if you want to connect, then probably the simplest thing I can tell everybody is calendar time for yourself. Write you in on your calendar, add you to the to-do list, and then hold yourself accountable for showing up for you. Don't let that be negotiable time.
Don't let that part of the amoeba just kind of like drift away into nothingness. Like hold tight to the you time. Yeah. Oh, I love this. So I want to well, I'll save that one for later. So let's talk a little bit about your book. So,
okay.
All right. Can you share with me like who? Yay! There's the book. For those of you listening on the pod, it's a beautiful picture of a woman who is sitting on, I think it's supposed to be a shelf because it's called Get Off the Shelf. Choose you. First, you have a right to be happy. It has this beautiful, rich, kind of like a vibrant eggplant purple in there, which I love. I don't know if you have a connection with that color, but I just find it magnificent. So who is this book written for? Like what? I remember one of my book coaches asking me, like, what problem does this book solve?
Right. So Get Off the Shelf is for everybody. But if I were to narrow down that niche, as our coaches tell us to do, and give myself a target audience, I'd say women, and they'd go, you got to get it tighter. Okay, how about women rocking their worlds and they've lost their connection to them? They lost their who am I, if they ever knew what it was to begin with. So I say women rocking their world and buried and busy.
I think that's probably still most women. But yeah, right? You think you get to a point and you're like, I got 18 plates going on right now. I'm keeping them all in the air. Everything's great. And then with me, my experience was I would just kind of have these feelings when I would either be out with my kids or taking pictures or kind of buried in the middle of that busy. And then I'd be like, where am I? Like, where
Yeah.
am I in all this mess? Like in all these presents that for these 6 preschool parties that I'm repping, where am I? In all this work, like in this dress, in this hair, in this makeup for like my sister-in-law's like wedding. Like I'm like, where am I in this? Like I would got a lot of compliments because it was like the first time I'd worn a dress since giving birth to 2 children. And I was all done up, and I was like, it was so weird. It even felt weird to spend time with someone doing my hair for that wasn't just in a ponytail and a velour tracksuit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's the who am I that, and I speak from my generation, and I'm a septuagenarian, and it's the way that we're raised, and especially in motherhood, our focus shifts off ourselves if it was ever there to begin with, and we have these wonderful energies that have come out of us into the world that we want to hold safe. So it all becomes about them, making sure they're happy, they're safe, they're doing whatever they want to do the best way that they can do it. And that's a good way to get lost. But if you flip that into the joy of doing, you wanted to be a mother. So you have this gift and you want to do for them. So instead of making it a chore, look at it as the gift. And when you take care of yourself, that's an easy thing to do. When you don't take care of yourself, then you begin to resent all the doing. And it could be 20 years. The kids have graduated from college, they're married and have lives of their own, and suddenly you're just pissed off because you've been stuffing all of that what about me for 20 or 30 or 40 or however many years you've been holding on to it. So write your story and let it fly.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I remember I used to hang out with a group of other like preschool mommies, and I would often say like, oh, I gave my pound of flesh today. How about you? And I said this in earnest without realizing that that's exactly what I was doing, right? I was just like piling on all of that resentment. At some point it did let go, and not a good way. It came out in like tears and and anger. But yeah, it's just like, stop doing that. Stop saying those kind of things. Stop putting yourself on the shelf, not putting yourself on your own to-do list, right? And then speaking your truth and speaking your voice. And honestly, I didn't know. I know a lot of people are like, I don't know what I want to do. I think by the sheer act of telling your story, you come closer.
Absolutely. Plus, there's an energetic release from your body when you let the stories go. So I have come to learn after years of struggling with excess pounds put on by the first child that holding all of that in is also billowing the body, because that energy that you're holding has to go somewhere. So for me, I've come to realize that I feed my emotions. Sometimes I can be very aware of that, and sometimes it's an afterthought. But when you don't take care of you first, and you are on the end of your priority list, your health suffers, both physically and mentally and emotionally. You bring dis-ease into your environment. And I don't say that you're attracting illness, but there is an unease with dis-ease, and you'll never feel at ease.
That uncomfortable, and I can relate to being in professions where we're all just doing, and we're not speaking our truth. I used to be in the fundraising profession, so we always spoke for others, right, on behalf of others. And so then we were always just so backed up. And until I got out of that environment and started speaking my own truth, I didn't realize, like, I physically lost like 25 pounds because it was right. It was all in there. That's all me. I was like holding in there all that unease and not feeling like, yeah, like not feeling like I was connecting with other people because I had that. I created that buffer. I fed that buffer. And I would say that I had the disease that I had would be codependency and depression. Like that's how it manifested for me.
Mm-hmm.
But once I was able to like speak my truth and still even speaking my truth now, like leads me further and further along being able to share, to keep myself off the shelf and share my story.
If more of us could give ourselves permission to be truthful to the world, not for the world, but to the world, be present as who we are, whether that is a depressed person in therapy, been there, done that, still am, working on it. Whether it is an overweight person in Weight Watchers, been there, done that, still there, working on it. Whether it is a best-selling author or a Olympic gymnast or an equestrian champion, you name it, just show up authentically as that. In real estate, when I quit wearing skirts and having my nails and hair done and showed up in jeans and Birkenstocks and my shirts matched my shoes, I became one of the top producers in the town because the same person that people met to buy a house was the same person they ran into at the grocery store. Me. Too many of us wear masks in the world rather than showing up as ourselves because we're afraid we'll upset somebody. Which side of the fence should I be on today? What should I talk about? What shouldn't I talk about with this particular person, group, or place?
How do I, what mask do I need to wear today?
Right.
Versus how can I be myself today? And so as a lesbian woman, and on our Pride Month, I'm gonna talk tomorrow about all the different ways in which we all need to keep coming out of the closet. Right. So all the different ways in which we all have to, not just an LGBT thing, but just like, I'm a woman that doesn't shave her legs. Just came out of the closet. Okay. Yeah. I'm a woman who has a lot of facial hair because of my heritage. Yeah, use a razor right there. Me. So it's just like by giving myself permission to be seen and to continually come out, as myself, to be that same person in the store that people see later. Right.
Yes.
That's the gift.
Whether you're on the baseball field or you're at a Chamber of Commerce meeting, if you show up as you, and yes, there's times we have to filter ourselves, but it doesn't change who we are. It only changes the way that we express who we are. Would I use a swear word in church? Probably not. Catch me on the football field and I might. So, but that's authentically me. That's where my amoeba flows. So it's not giving up or taking away from or closeting a part of me. It is
it's giving yourself permission to swear or not to swear.
Exactly. It's my choice because I chose me.
Yeah. Because you know what the consequences would be in church.
Well, yeah, nowadays probably not so much, but when I was a little kid, it would have been. Yeah.
Even thinking that word in church, I think it would have caused me some consternation as a child.
I was an adult before I used any swear words. It just wasn't in my vocabulary. But then I married a cowboy, and I don't know what to say. I think it's their language, so I have to filter.
But that's good. That cowboy didn't change, how they talk. Yep.
Didn't ask him to.
Yep.
Took me 40 years to train him, but the last 10 years has been pretty good.
Yeah, that reminds me when I first got married, like I remember there was all this talk around like how you gonna, how are you doing on the husband training and stuff. And so that's just like a common thing. And then as the more I move through life and work with challenges around like my family of origin or like my spouse, my wife now, I'm just like, I'm just gonna let them do them. And if it really bothers me, I'm just gonna put up my old amoeba boundary right there.
or
That's what I'm gonna do.
or speak your truth
Hmm.
and say out loud. Because if the love is real, then the truth isn't going to change that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what I grew to know is that if I can't say, I'm not sure you meant to say the way I heard what you said, but this is what I heard and it hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can get to the place in our lives where we can share our truth without fear of losing love or life or associations or places in our world, wow, you get to have your truth. I get to have mine. You get to,
What an amazing, what an amazing world that is, right? When we are able to say, all right, this is just that I'm being direct and honest, and I've been I decided to be truthful. I was let go from a couple jobs. I said I knew the second one was on the second one. I knew it was coming because I decided to be direct and honest.
yeah,
I decided to be truthful, and it. Even though I was let go, I was still taken care of, and I felt the best part. I felt great. I felt great getting let go. I knew I was probably going to be let go. I was prepared. Like my my desk was packed away. Even like I was like, today's the day. I think okay, and just because I spoke my truth, because I was direct and honest in an environment that wasn't,
right.
like that is what saved me. Right, I put myself first.
Good for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Wow. Okay, so we are getting close to the end of our time. So let us talk about, okay, so um how do you hope, okay, so your book is full of so many juicy, fun, playful, artistic, sacred, grounding, healing, listening practices. How do you hope people use your book other than a tool to give themselves permission for speaking? Like, because there's so many different practices in there. Like, how do you hope people use your book?
I hope it's a good story. I share myself both in fiction and in memoir. So it's not just me telling you all about me. And I think when I finished each chapter, the exercise that came along for getting off the shelf was sparked by whatever the story was about. So I didn't plan any of the exercises, they happened. And I think that goes along with the gift I was given in the title of the book. I had many people say, it doesn't tell us what your book is about. Well, okay. And then I thought about changing the title. And then my dear publisher, Shonda Trofe, said, intuitively, it has been the title for years. Do you really want to change it? Think about the story that goes with it. And so, again, I gave myself permission to not follow the rules in that your book's title needs to tell you what the book's about. If it's a nonfiction book, those rules. And so people didn't understand Get Off the Shelf until I just simply told them it's a story about how we as women especially set ourselves aside in service to everything and everybody else in our lives except ourselves. We put ourselves on the shelf and then we just let the world run us.
And we gather dust.
Yeah. We set us aside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The time is no longer.
Right.
Amen
Right.
to that.
Yeah.
All right. So did you learn anything? Like what did you learn about, did you learn anything about yourself when, now this is a writer question. Did you learn anything about yourself when you wrote this book?
Well, sure. Um, I think the greatest umbrella lesson was I could, because there were a lot of stops along the way. This particular book has been 5 years plus in the making, and knee surgery's got in the way, and more knee surgery's got in the way, and moving from a house I'd been in for 40 years to a new place and trying to figure out what life is like there got in the way.
Wow.
And the book began to be what pulled me back to me, as all the distractions tried to pull me away from it. And so it has been, the writing has become my grounding tool. And when I write every week my Friday Food for Thoughts, it is a way for me to tell the story and not hold on to it. And sometimes it's very raw, and sometimes it's funny. It's real, it's vulnerable. It's just me talking the week away, and hopefully giving you a little insight into a way for you to be in your week. So the writing for me has become my sacred practice. When I don't, I get depressed. Very simple. I sleep.
Light dims. When I don't write, my light dims significantly,
Yeah.
and then I'm just kind of like trudging along, just like,
Yes.
what good is life without homemade chocolate chip cookies or writing?
Right.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so I am also a blessed recipient of your Friday Food for Thoughts. And if anyone listening or watching this would like to be on there, we can go to vickydobbs.com and sign up. Is that correct?
Yes. There's a little box where you can sign up for my newsletter, which is my Friday Food for Thoughts. And occasionally I toss in a Tuesday tidbit, or a Wednesday slice of wisdom, or a Thursday thought to make you go, But you'll get something every Friday.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right, Vicki, before we go, I started this new thing called the Spotlight Moment.
Okay.
So I would like you to share with me and our Joyfully Ever After community your peculiar genius. So what is your unique mix of talents and traits that make you uniquely qualified to do what you do?
Wow. I think probably I wrote a whole list of things there, but I think for me, humor is one of my gifts, and the ability to be silly and to laugh with other people. And gosh, the guiding moment. Wake up, just wake up. I think in one of the stories I share that my grandmother once said that life is about what you stir into the stew every day. Sweet or sour, you choose. So if I could give people that one aha moment, it's stir a little goodness and kindness into your stew every day. It'll change your life.
I love that. I love that. And Vicki, I'd like to say that you are intuitive and grounded, and your playfulness also helps you, and your wonder helps you connect with the divine and the rhythm of life, and all of the nature that we have been blessed with sharing space with here. So,
Yep.
Fantastic. So your main hub is at vickydobbs.com, and the Get Off the Shelf debuts on the summer solstice, so June 21st. Yep.
1 week from today, guys. Woo-hoo. It will be out.
All right. And is it available? What are the formats it's available?
Amazon, it's available in Kindle and print. The audiobook is on the burners, but right now Kindle and print, and the Kindle will be 99 cents next week for a few days from the 21st, I think, till probably the 25th. So if you want to jump in on a really good deal, go for it.
It is fantastic. I'm gonna get the paperback copy because I want to tear some pages out and go run in nature a little bit.
Yeah.
So I plan on playing with this book. It has a bit of a sacred Sark type vibe.
Thank you. Wow, what a compliment.
Sacred.
It's not meant to be read and put on the shelf. It's a workbook right along with a reading book. So it's a storybook and it's a workbook, and it gives you journal opportunities and fun times. And you know what, guys, just enjoy it. You'll bless my world by enjoying it.
And your masterclass, so you have a masterclass coming out in July. Is this a companion masterclass or what?
It is. The first book, if I can figure out which way to point my finger.
There it is.
Is called You First, and it's practical wisdom for nurturing body, mind, heart, and soul. So that baby is actually a chapter from this book that grew into its own little book and got in the way of Get Off the Shelf. And so the masterclass is called Mastering the Art of Putting You First. And it will probably be August-ish, end of August, end of summer when we get it all done, because now with Get Off the Shelf in front of Mastering the Art of Putting You First, it will involve not just the little book, but some of the big book as well.
Oh, I love that.
Mastering the Art of Putting You First.
Great. And if we subscribe to the Friday Food for Thought, we will be in the loop on when all of that goodness happens.
Absolutely.
And you also have links. I will put links in on your Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest in case anyone listening and watching is on any of those. So
yeah, you can find me on Facebook at Vicki L. Dobbs. There's a lot of Vicki Dobbs out there in our world, and one of them is an amazing graphic artist for Disney that worked on Star Wars. Another one's an award-winning teacher in Alabama. And so it's Vicki L. Dobbs, author, on Facebook.
All right. Good. That's good. That's good to know. It's good to know. Yeah. Great.
Thank you so much, Heidi. You've been a joy to get to know, and I really appreciate this opportunity to share my voice with your audience.
Oh, it's been fantastic. So anyone listening and watching, if you have any questions for Vicki and want to get in touch with her, feel free to put them in the comments. You can email me, howdy@HeidiEsther.com, and I will totally give you the hookup.
That's right.
All right. So just a couple quick announcements. Tomorrow I am talking about all the different ways to come out of the closet and why it's important to come out of the closet tomorrow, June 15th on Storytime with Heidi Esther. And then next Wednesday, 22nd, the day after Vicki's book comes out, I am going to do not a workshop, but a play shop on what is regret and how do we get it out of our lives. I call it a joy block. I'm starting to call things joy block. So that's a blocker. That's a joy blocker right there, that regret. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. It was a blessing to share space with you today, Vicki. I absolutely loved it. And I can't wait to have you on again for your next book or next big launch. And we will continue the conversation.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.